tried. She loves football.
What are you? Mobile, agile, hostile. What is pain? Fresh bread. What is fatigue? Army clothes. Will you ever quit? No. We want some more. We want some more. We want some more. Turn in.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Campbell.
Uh-huh.
What kind of power you got?
Oh, man, you know I got some soul power.
What kind of power you got?
What kind of question is that? I got soul power.
Yes, you do.
Right on. Let me ask you something now, Mr. Burkett.
Yes.
How strong are you?
I'm too strong.
What? How strong?
I'm too strong.
How strong?
Too strong.
Right on.
I want a victory.
Oh, I want a victory.
I want a victory.
No, I want a victory.
You want victory?
Gotta love and remember the Titans. Sorry the clip messed up. But those of y'all that don't know me, my name is Ryan Gloer. I grew up in this church, and then I went off to college for 4 years, and now I'm back. Yeah, woohoo! But while I was off at college, I played football for 4 years, and through football I got highly involved with an organization known as FCA, which is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And that allowed me to travel for several summers, and I got involved with many high school-aged athletes. And through that, I was able to meet many other guys my age. I met a guy named James, who was a fellow huddle leader. And James, big old jack dude. He played defensive end at Wofford. First time I ever met him, he didn't have sleeves on his shirts, and I was like, this guy is a beast. He had 3 nails tattooed right here, and underneath those nails, he had the words written Isaiah 53:5. And I was young in my walk at the time. I got real curious, and I hurried back to my room, and I went and I looked up that verse, and I started to read it. And instantly, it became my favorite verse. And what it read was, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Punishment that brought us peace was behind him, and by his wounds we are healed." And I started thinking about that because, that right there in that verse showed me how much he loves me. That showed me what he did for me. In that clip, the reason I like that, he said, he asked, what is pain? And I started thinking, what is pain? Pain is something Christ went through for each individual in this room. He has given us all the free gift of life. And I started thinking about some of the pains I've gone through. I've played football for, the better portion of my life. And I've never cried in my adult life until a couple of months ago. I got infected with my 4th staph infection, which those are real fun. Usually if you catch one, you're having bad luck. I caught 4. And, so they put me in the emergency room for the 3rd time in 1 week. And as I lay there, the doctor, he looked like LL Cool J on steroids. He was huge. He walked over to his tray full of those metal goodies, and he told me that the numbing agent wasn't going to work. And I was like, all right, doc, do what you got to do. So he started to cut me open, and my mom was in there, and I couldn't imagine what she was going through because I was screaming at the top of my lungs. That was the worst physical pain I'd ever gone through my entire life. My blood and my sweat and my tears were all over that doctor's room. And the entire time I lay there, the only thing that could cross my mind is this is absolutely nothing compared to what he went through. Everything that Christ did for me, this is absolutely nothing compared to the pain that he suffered. But then I was reminded that he didn't focus on the pain. If you look in Hebrews 12:2, this is what it says. It says, who for the joy set before him endured the pain of the cross. He didn't focus on the beating. He got beat beyond recognition. He did not focus on that. He didn't focus on the nails that were driven through his hands. He didn't focus on the blood that dripped from his body. He didn't focus on the fact that he was mocked, that he was scorned, that he was spit on, that a crown of thorns driven through his skull and piercing his brow. He didn't focus on that. He focused on the victory that lay in front of him. I think that was the life that he was going to be able to give you. And, so I started thinking, how many times do we focus only on our beatings? We do that a lot. I've gone through that many times in my life where I only focus on the bad. I don't focus on the good that's going to lay in front of me. I'm like, this is never going to get better. So many times we get fatigued. He asked, what is fatigue? Fatigue is weariness. And I started thinking about a verse that really helps me out through the times I've gotten so fatigued. In Galatians 6:9, it says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And I started thinking that every time I've achieved a victory, it's come from persistency. You don't give up. You keep on and you keep on. And you can't allow the circumstances that you're going through in your life to rob you from the joy that life has to offer. And a couple months back, some of y'all were at the vertical trip. Y'all hassled me and gave me a hard time. I was on my fast, and y'all would come up and eat stuff in front of me. Lance Lanier was eating banana pudding and chocolate cookies mixed. I'm like, you know. And but through that fast, I was led to the scripture in 1 Samuel. And I started reading about a guy named Jonathan. And he did not let circumstances to rob him of the joy of life. But if you want to open up, I'm going to be reading from 1 Samuel 14 tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and start into it. But I'm telling you about a guy named Jonathan. And he was the son of Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel. And right now, if you're looking at the scripture, this is, if you recognize that the Israelites are at war with the Philistines. And this is just a few chapters before David shows Goliath who his daddy was. And, but as a warrior king, Saul had the responsibility to lead the charge. He had been commanded by God to engage in a battle. And he was promised a sure victory. I'm like, if I was promised something, I'm sitting there wondering, why would I not engage in it? But, Saul did one thing when he's supposed to do the other. I started thinking, how many times do we do that? That narrow path that the Bible talks about. There's a victory down a narrow path, and he promises that. Yet we choose so many times to go down that broad road, that wide gate that leads to destruction because it's so much fun. It is a lot of fun because I've been down that road. And but I'm going to jump back on track right quick. The Philistines, they brought a lot of fear into the hearts of the Israelites. And Saul was supposed to wait 7 days. And he was supposed to, wait on Samuel. And out of fear and out of arrogance, he tried to take things into his own hands. He tried to do things on his own. And so out of the fear and out of the arrogance, he offered up all of the burnt offerings. And, Samuel shows up and is like, dude, what's up? You can't do that. What are you doing? And, so Samuel rebuked Saul. And Saul was paralyzed. He was afraid to engage in battle. He was petrified. And in verse 14, too, it says he was staying on the outskirts. And he was up underneath a tree. He was kind of just hiding because he was so afraid from trying to do things his own way. He didn't know where to go next. But the next part is what I really want to talk about is his son, Jonathan, and a guy named Jab. Has anybody ever heard of Jab? I hope no hands are raised because I made him up. I gave him that name because the Bible didn't give him a name. Jonathan's armor bearer, J-A-B. So I started calling him Jab. I was like, all right, that'd be good.